Oh my goodness, SJ Lab, you're attending from the car. Thank you so much.
Okay, hello. Shall we start? Pedro, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Yes, okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday Web Jam. Just a few things before we start. We are now live on YouTube. We will be screenshotting and sharing some love on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of our social media and our website. So feel free to do the same. Apart from breakout rooms and backstage, that is not recorded. So you can freely speak however you wish during those times. So for people who are new to Wednesday Web Jam, welcome. This is a place for clumsy innovators, compassionate facilitators, ignorant experimentalists, cheeky co-creators, hungry learners, and change makers. And our motto is failing forward. There is no other way. So please be kind, be nice, and be empathetic. So have I missed anything, Mark?
Do we have a GDPR disclaimer?
Oh, I just did that. Yes.
Yeah.
In the beginning. So yes.
Oh, okay.
If you don't want to be recorded, please turn off your camera. And but we'd love to see your faces. So please feel free to turn on your camera if you feel comfortable having your face on the internet. And as I just said in the beginning, we're going to be sharing some love all over social media. And feel free to do the same. Okay, I will pass this on to Pedro, who is back with us. Pedro, it's been a while. How are you?
Indeed, quite a while. I've been drowning with work in the last months, and so it has been really difficult to come over to the Wednesday Web Jam, and I really miss being here with the crowd.
Would you like to share your screen?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, you can take over my screen now.
I'll take over, and where do I have my own screen? Hang on, here it is. And let me see if I can.
Yes, we see your screen.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. Yes. So we'll be talking a bit about can we use artificial intelligence to forecast or predict or in some way guess the success of new services or new products. And a lot of what I will be talking about is based on this wonderful book from this wonderful lady, Hannah Fry. And Hannah, she's Irish and she's a professor of mathematics in London. And she's a YouTuber, and I totally recommend you guys to actually check out this book and buy it and see some of her videos on YouTube. She's a great educator, and I totally love her work. And so I'll go through some of her work during this talk in a way to kind of like incentivize you guys to go and buy her book because I really recommend it. And so let me jump into our topic very quickly. And start with the hard part, and then we'll go to the easy part. So the hard part, very quickly, is about algorithms and artificial intelligence. And so artificial intelligence is something that is not as smart as we would take it or guess. And there were quite a few attempts. I usually like to talk about chess. And one of the first softwares that we could say would have some sort of artificial intelligence in it was actually a chess game online that you can actually still play it. And then we'll send a link to you guys on the next email of Wednesday Web Jam. And you can actually play against a chess game made in 1950s, which is absolutely amazing how they could back then already prepare such a software. And so artificial intelligence comes from a long way back. And if we try to decompose it, when we look back at it, it's basically a bunch of algorithms put together. And what are they trying to do? They're basically aiming at solving some problem or accomplishing some end. And we see here the four perhaps most common or main types of algorithms. They're all very simple, and this is essentially what computers can actually make. So they can rank or prioritize some list. They can classify things and say you belong, you're an animal or you're an object, or whatever other classifications we might make. Association saying perhaps this human will enjoy this kind of food, perhaps you'll enjoy that kind of book because people like you also enjoy that kind of book. So this kind of associations is also a very simple algorithm. Or filtering. So let's say out of all Uber drivers around me, which one would be the fastest one to get here? And so isolating what's important, filtering all the data. So these four very, very basic algorithms, and they are fundamental in the structure of artificial intelligence. They're kind of like building blocks. And they seem simple, but actually, there's a lot of different ways to prioritize or classify or make associations. And so these very different ways to do it become actually very complex from a mathematical point of view. And when you try to put all of these different ones together in different ways, in different sequences, that's when you start to build something closer and closer to artificial intelligence, especially if you start applying sets of rules and definitions behind these algorithms to achieve your desired end. So this was the boring part. And now let's try and kind of like demystify the complexity of artificial intelligence and bring it down to a more human level, let's say. So artificial intelligence nowadays can do things very well, which around, let's say, handling massive amounts of data, but they're just terrible, absolutely terrible at doing the most basic things, the most mundane things in the world. And so we humans are still way, way, way smarter than artificial intelligence. And so artificial intelligence is basically glorified software. But we can try to use it in smart ways and try to understand if we could use it to do some of the heavy work that we try to do when launching, especially new services or new products, which is the topic of today. So the first one is, I called it multiverse, which is this idea that we could create different universes where perhaps we could test one product in a universe and another product in a different universe in a different set of conditions and see what would happen. And so let's say, would Pink Floyd always be successful in every universe that we would create? And I guess so, because they're my favorite band. I just can't conceive how Pink Floyd would never be successful. But this is actually what Facebook does. And Facebook tries to create actually thousands of different versions of Facebook. And so they compare how different people use it. And from all of those different versions, they come up with a greater understanding. And so they create these kind of multiverses to try to understand which one would be the best service from their platform. But I have here perhaps one of the most interesting experiments ever run to find out how we humans actually behave and are socially conditioned when thinking about, do we like a service or a product? And so back in 1997, a few professors at the university, and then we'll give you all the list of names and links for these studies, but a few professors at the university, they decided to list 48 songs from undiscovered bands. And they created a website on this website, they had these 48 songs, and on a control world, they had thousands and thousands of people listening to those songs and ranking them. And so, if you would just listen to it and enjoy it, this would be captured by the software. And so, they made a list of who would be more successful based on all of these different listeners. So, they kind of got a very independent based comparison to understand. So, this is our control group to understand how things would work. And then they created 8 other universes, so 8 other groups of people where they made a few changes to the different rankings of these songs. And so in some worlds, perhaps some songs would be listened more frequently, other songs would be less listened. And so would we, by just, and by the way, and in these different worlds, you can actually see how, what other people actually are listening to. And so on the independent controlled world, in the dependent condition, no one could actually see it. And so on the other ones, on world 1 to n, a social influence condition side, you can actually understand what others are looking at, what others are listening. And so will that influence what people prefer? And here I would actually ask a few questions to you guys, and I'll see if Mark is ready with a few polls for you guys. Mark, are you ready to launch the poll?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So could we have the first question about, let's imagine, so 48 songs, undiscovered bands, run 8 different universes. Do you think we get pretty much the same results in every universe? And just 10 more seconds, 15.
Only 12 people have voted out of 21 on the call. If you haven't yet, please place your vote. Getting close, 15 of 21. Who hasn't voted?
Host can't vote.
Okay. So I think we can end the poll. We have a clear result. And so about 76% of you, so 3/4 are saying no, we'll have different results, and yes are saying yeah, we'll get the same results pretty much. And surprisingly, actually, we have very different results. And so despite the specific quality of each song, we are very influenced by what other people listen to. And so what was successful in one universe could actually end up at the end of the list in another universe. And so are we more dependent on the content, on the quality of the content, or on social influence? And the answer is dramatically, we are far more dependent on social influence, which is really it was quite a big surprise for me. And so thank you so much for voting. And can we have the second question, Mark? Were there some clear losers in all universes? So songs that you would say, this is a terrible song, doesn't matter how many universes you create.
We've got 7 of 21 answered. I think we had 17 or 18. So everybody, all 17 of you who did the first poll question can do the second poll question.
And so we're at a
one more
kind of 60-40 balance almost.
Pedro, Collier asked what was the indicator?
Yeah, so if there were any clear losers in all universes, the question.
Yes or no.
Yes or no.
Yeah. Okay, and the poll?
Yeah. Okay, so About 2/3 of you believe that yes, there were some clear losers, and that's the correct answer. So there were some songs that, regardless of whichever universe, they were always pretty much at the bottom of the list. And so, yeah, when they're terrible, they're truly terrible, and there's no social influence that can save you. Very last question. Were there significant differences between all universes? So let's say songs that would be at the top would end up closer to the end in one universe or in another universe, or if pretty much there's a soft change from universe to universe, or do you think there's a dramatic difference from universe to universe? If you think there were dramatic differences, answer yes. If you think that there were subtle differences between universes, answer no. And wow, this is pretty much a 50-50 toss of the coin kind of result. And yeah, it's 50-50. And thank you so much for voting. And the answer was that actually there were quite a few significant differences. And so some songs would actually oscillate significantly in their position from universe to universe, which makes life extremely difficult for those who try to forecast success of services or products using artificial intelligence, as suddenly in one universe things happen in one given way, and in other universes things change dramatically. And it's sometimes it's just a matter of timing or who started listening to what. It's just a matter of who's influencing whom, and suddenly you have or some people perhaps be more participative. And so with all these little differences, and so let me just do a small, with all these small little differences influencing the result, what happened was we had a very significant impact from the initial inputs of social influence. And so minute influences in the beginning causing major impact makes it very difficult, makes it actually, from an academic perspective, it's called a wicked problem. And so determining success on music is pretty much a wicked problem, and it's very difficult to forecast success. But can we force success through our available channels or mediums that we have at our disposal? And so that brings us to yet another bit of fascinating information. So let's see this. Back in the 90s, two music producers in the UK decided to put a bet. And one of them was saying, I can, or perhaps he would say, I can make a crappy song hit top 20, regardless of the quality of the song. So this would be, and I'm doing my best UK impression here. And so this was their bet. And they were having a good laugh at it and decided, I will make the Muppet Show song successful. And let me actually switch to YouTube and see if I can share this song on YouTube for you guys. And so let me just share my screen of YouTube for a minute, and let me just put the Muppet Show for a brief moment. Phenomena. 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 So what a catchy bit of music we have here. And so a bit kind of funky and very jazzy. And so these people decided, you know what, I can pick up something like this, create a pop song and sell it because we can just advertise it and we have the ways to do it. We can put it on radio. We can force the most terrible song to actually to success. And let's see what was that song. I could find the song and I will share this actually, well, this, let's call it music with you guys. And so bear with me for a few seconds while we listen to Vanilla.
Mana mana. Mana mana. No way, no way. Mana mana. No way, no way. Mana mana. No way, no way. Mana mana. Not today. Don't get cross with me.
And I think,
We're always together, never apart.
I think this is really quite enough of that. Dreadful. And so, and my question to you guys, and I need to actually see your faces now. Let's just see, get a show of hands. Who thinks that they never made it to the top 20? And now, who is saying that they actually made it to the top 20? 1, 2, 3. And you know what? A few of you are right. They actually made it to number 14 on the charts. With this song made it to the number 14 on the charts. And so this really tells us that sometimes we are served with the worst service and products and we just take it. And you know, sometimes we're forced into it. Let's say you have to deliver your IRS documentation, and so you just have to go and do it and present your taxes, and so you're forced into it. But sometimes it's your choice, and you still do it, and you still choose something quite terrible, and that sends us to actually to our breakout room moment, where I would really like you guys to discuss a very simple question. And I will actually perhaps share my screen a little bit more just to show. Let me just share my screen and show you the question I would like to ask to discuss on the breakout room. So, what services or products are or were terrible, and nevertheless we accepted them, and why? What were the reasons that made you take those terrible services or products and that you deeply regret perhaps, but you still went forward and did it? And so we're trying to find out what are the reasons that make us choose something that is actually quite below par, something quite terrible in terms of services and products. What makes us as humans make these stupid choices, making life very complex for artificial intelligence to understand us. But let's now stick just with the reasons we believe that makes us choose terrible things. It might just be brand or whatever. I don't want to influence you guys. But what I want to say is that I would love to send you guys 10 minutes to a breakout room to have a good conversation about why you choose some really terrible products or services and rank a few lists of reasons for that.
Pedro, are you creating the breakout rooms, or would you like?
Yeah, I will actually create it now, and I will just open a small number of rooms. I'll just create 3 breakout rooms and open our rooms right now.
Okay. See you soon. Oh.
And so everyone moved.
Did you send Mark? No.
I don't know. So I guess I did.
Bring him back.
Do I bring him back? I don't know how to bring him back anymore.
I do, I
Yeah,
think. Let me
okay.
check.
Bring
I
him back.
could. Wow. How? Oh, we got like 5, 7, and 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got 2 Florins here. Hello.
We're actually a group on this line. Yeah. So
Yes.
we'd like to speak in the room together.
Yes.
And so Florian, in which room are you?
Mm.
Or which group do you prefer to be? Or who are you guys? Or so that we could send you to the proper, to the group you want to be in. You're all together in the room. Okay. All right. So can you ask the other guys where are they so that we can try to send you to one of the breakout rooms? Yeah, it would be confusing, and Florian is right. But I cannot reconstruct it. Florian, for the next breakout room, could you make a list of those names and we could then put you guys all together?
Dot, dot, dot.
Okay, happy to.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Florian.
Ah.
And so this is, I can remember a few terrible products and services that I took. Most of the times is about actually branding for me. You just go with the brand and you think, this is a great brand, or perhaps a great movie actor. And so let's say, if I like Nick Cage movies, suddenly I go to see the next Nicolas Cage movie, and it's dreadful, just horrible. The man has some really terrible movies, and so and actually decided I will never try my luck again without checking Internet Movie Database before with Nicolas Cage, because some of his movies are just dreadful. So and so more and more I try to get to actually one of the factors that we'll still be talking today, which is wisdom of the crowd. Is I'll try to find ways to discover what are other people talking about. And so let's say with movies is Internet Movie Database. With wine is the application Vivino. And so I try to, before buying a wine, I'll just check with the app to see is this a good wine or not. That already saved me also quite a good number of times. Like you have this beautiful bottle, it just says like it's a denomination or whatever, one of those French names, or it's in Portuguese they would say it's a reserve wine, and it has some from a vintage year or something like that, and then the bottle looks beautiful, and you oh my goodness, and then you check it on Vivin and go, oh, it's a dreadful product,
You know what? You actually mentioned about this in a previous jam. I think it was last year, summer. Do you remember that jam that you were running when you were on holiday and you were running the jam, right? And I remember Awi Roach, which is my friend slash like he went to my school, he's my junior. He mentioned about like, oh, it'd be cool to have an app that scans the wine barcode and tell you if the wine's good, and you talked about that. Yeah.
With wines, I mean, the only problem in a supermarket is when you like in one of those large supermarkets that they have like 400 different bottles of wine.
Yes.
And then you go like, I cannot scan 400 bottles. This takes forever. And so how do you make a smart choice? And this is actually a big drama in very large stores, which provide you. I mean, they're very large because they want to provide you with a large assortment, a very broad options for choice. But then by creating choice, they also create a problem of how to choose. And they typically do not help you in choosing. They assume that somehow you know what you want. And so you go there because you actually go to try to find something already specific that you cannot find somewhere else. But the fact is most people are there struggling to choose between 400 bottles of wine and 150 types of cheese and
Mm,
23 different types of mustard. And it just makes life very difficult. And you end up just picking up whatever is cheaper or the brand you know, or yeah, and you go for the usual products usually. But then
mm,
this makes it actually complex because you need to find those in the middle of, let's say, 400 bottles. So where's those two or three wines that I usually like to, and some does make life easier for you. Um, so
mm.
yeah, so it's the drama of choice.
I know some supermarkets have a human specifically a human sorry a person specifically trained for
Yeah,
like recommending wines and cheese, and they have like a whole apron that says like I'm a
yeah, yeah,
wine
yeah.
specialist, I'm a cheese specialist,
Exactly. Yeah.
and you go into it and you ask that person like what do I get compare with this and this, and they get trained for that
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah,
I had to, I don't have to use the services, but I got asked before where like
yeah.
do you, can you recommend me something, and I was like let me go get him. Oh wait, he's gone home. I don't know what to recommend. I don't drink. So it's like it makes, we didn't think it would make such a difference, but it makes a difference when we need somebody who's a specialist,
Yeah, yeah,
because it is like you said, it's 400 wines.
yeah.
It's 400 wines. You can't
You have
possibly know
no
all
idea
of
how to
them.
choose. Yeah, it's just too
Mm,
much. There might be some gem, something special there.
yeah,
And how do you get away from your usual choices? How do you buy something new? And
yeah.
so, in terms of trying to predict the success of a new product or service, um, how do you get into the circuit? You know, because if it's a very wide market like wine, it's very difficult to get into into the circuit. How do you
Mm,
announce a new wine? How would people actually try it? And so,
yes.
what tends to happen is you spend a ton of money to promote your wine at very low cost usually. To just try to make a name in the market, and you try to sell it at lower costs so that you can
Mm,
advertise it and say, hey, there's a special promotion for this wine only this week or something like that. And so we go back to the old traditional ways of doing marketing, but at a loss of money. And so um, then that's where, and going back to that music, uh, to the songs study from those professors, what you might try is to create a lot of social influence. And so
mm,
this was from 1997, so they were already hinting at social influence is extremely powerful in what people will choose. And so you see that the different results from those different worlds uh, actually show us the huge impact of social media, and
yeah.
even before social media was invented. And so you can actually see that uh, fabulous study, and I really love the results of that. And so I downloaded the study and was reading it to
Mm,
understand. So it's very academic in the way they wrote it, of course, but it's still fascinating. And it already tells you if you manage to get social media um, uh, working for you, and this is why influencers in Instagram and things like that are so valuable nowadays, is because it really works. And so,
it
yeah,
does.
if you get social influence behind you, you can dramatically influence the outcome of a service or a product.
That's true, because people were thinking social media influencers, like back in the day, like YouTubers weren't
Mhm.
able to make money, but now it's a whole different category of
Yeah,
itself because they have such a big following. Also,
yeah,
quick question. When do
absolutely.
we bring the people back?
And by the way, did you enjoy that vanilla song? That was
I
terrible.
like the Muppets version more because it's so whimsical, and like it is
Yeah,
a. I did grow up with the Muppets, so
and it's very jazzy. I mean,
yeah,
there's actually it's actually has some interesting quality in it.
yeah.
And Animal goes like bah, 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 bah. So he's improvising, and it's jazz. So it
Yeah.
was written by jazz people, and you can feel it totally. And then
Yes.
you transform it into some pop canned song, and it's a
Mm,
disaster. Uh, and I think they just became uh, quite well known in those days, just because they were actually just piggybacking on the Muppets song. And
Yes, I
so,
see.
Larry, welcome to the session. We're right now hosting a breakout room moment, but we'll finish it soon. And so we'll have everyone else on board very soon.
2 minutes, Pedro?
Yeah, I think
Or
so. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
it's nice to give people space to chat in the breakout room, and that's YouTube. That's what you're missing out. Yes, it's the magic. Yes, I like how you use the example of the Muppet song, because I never heard of the vanilla. What was it called again?
Vanilla, that's it. Vanilla.
Yeah, I never heard of vanilla version.
Yeah.
That was the first. I thought like that was.
Oh, the song I think is really called Badam Badam.
That's that it. Um, yeah.
I had another breakout room moment about choosing books and movies,
Mm,
but we might speed it up a bit.
yeah. 5 minutes for that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do we want to keep some people in the room too? Mark said no. He wants to go in the breakout room.
Let's call them back.
Yes, I will end them now. Breakout rooms, close all
Bang.
rooms. Ah, you already got it.
Yeah.
60 seconds.
I know there's some noise nearby that you will.
It's okay.
But I hope it doesn't. It's not too disturbing. I hope.
That's all right. Yeah. Welcome back.
Yeah.
I have to get going, but it was very interesting. Thanks so much.
Thank you for
Thank you very much.
coming. See you
There's
next
still a lot
week.
more to
Okay.
come. I hope you can check it out later on YouTube.
I will. Wednesdays are so busy for me. I have a noon call I have to get ready for. But Pedro, thanks so much. And I like the email. It looked like Al, not AI. So I got a big laugh out of that.
Good one.
I'm the subject today. Anyway, take care. Everyone have a great week.
See you next week.
Okay,
Also,
bye-bye.
time change next week, just FYI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Europe is going, the clocks are switching.
But we're not. Okay, so.
Yeah, so it's like, it's going to be at 12 for you.
Oh, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I might have to skip till, because I have a 12 o'clock here. But
Oh, no.
once we switch, I'll come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
We look forward to seeing you again.
Coming over.
Okay, ma'am. Take care, Pedro. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And hello, everyone. I would really love to hear something from you guys about what were your conclusions. After all, one or a few examples of terrible products and or services, and why do you go with them? Why is that so? Don't be shy. Go ahead.
We have a huge list.
How do you want to tell us?
We have the lack of alternatives, so the multiple situation. We had the system and the lack of compatibility. Mm-hmm. So when, for instance, you have all the chargers of Apple, we have the conversion efforts and cost. We can be time or money. We had it looks nice.
Yeah.
We had the ship syndrome. We had the fact that we want to stay in our comfort zone. We have certain habits, and we know it. We had certain contracts which are binding. Sometimes we had the tradition.
Yes, absolutely.
Personal values as well. And the last one was that the peer group is using it.
Yeah.
For instance, it can be a chat system or a bar.
And they very good reasons for us to stick with some crappy products or services, indeed. Some other reasons from the other groups. Thank you so much, Ilona.
Mark, I saw your hand up earlier.
That was a pretty thorough list that Ilona rattled off. I think we got most of the things we talked about. I'm not sure, but did you mention price? Like something so damn cheap that you just feel compelled to buy it, even though it's crap?
And you end up that. Yes, I've ended up there frequently. Yes. Any other reasons? And I would love if you guys could actually then, if you had the time to actually list them on the chat, and then we could send all these different reasons back to you guys on the email for the next, when we invite you guys for the next session.
It will be on the website actually, Pedro.
So just one or two. Oh, wonderful, thank you. One or two. Oh yeah, Peggy.
I was just thinking about this totally crazy example when I first came from America to Germany in 1996, and I moved to Dresden, where it used to be an east part of Germany. And we were trying to hook up our telephone, and they said, yeah, it'll be like, I don't know, they said something like 3 or 6 months or something. And I was like, what? And everybody looked at me. It was pretty interesting. The people who lived there looked at us with detest or with negative, and said, there you go. Now you understand what it's about, and I thought, wow, it was like really intense. I was supposed to understand why you can't get what you actually want to get, in the time you want.
Yeah, I remember when my parents requested one. It was about 1 year of waiting time. Like, can you imagine? I want a service. We can wait for 1 year. Yeah, strange times indeed. Let me go on then with a few more slides. I promise that I will not massacre you guys with a lot of slides, but I would like now to actually ask you something very simple. If you would make a list and publish it on the chat, a list of your top favorite movies ever. So I'll give you a minute or so to write down your top 3 favorite movies ever. And then write it down on the chat and keep it coming. I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. Bring your favorite movies ever. And this takes us to a famous, difficult problem to handle by artificial intelligence, which is the abundance of choice. And I'll stop sharing for a minute. And let's go through some of these names. Last of the Mohicans, love it. The Holiday, Dr. Zhivago, I love that one. The Matrix, Wizard of Oz, Howl's Moving Castle, No Country for Old Men. Oh yes, oh I saw that one just like 2 weeks ago again. I saw it 4 or 5 times. Shawshank Redemption, yeah, high, very high. Amélie, Notting Hill, The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, Fructus, Before Sunrise, Fried Green Tomatoes. Okay, I'm curious about that one. What else? And Eat, Pray, Love. Oh yeah, I like that one also. And so, and About Time. Let me then again share my screen with some news for you guys. And sharing my screen. So our best movies ever, according to the Internet Movie Database. Who was proposing Shawshank Redemption as one of the favorites? Hello? Who was proposing Shawshank Redemption?
It's Anupa.
Oh, obviously I fit into that universe that is that is triggered by other people's choices clearly.
Okay. And so here we see if we try to use artificial intelligence and try to figure out what makes a good movie, we end up with these kind of lists. And so Shawshank Redemption, The Godfather 1 and 2, fabulous. And then The Dark Knight, and I go like, what? I have no idea of what The Dark Knight is. Angry Man, also never saw it. Schindler's List, fabulous. Then The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Pulp Fiction, saw it several times, definitely. Good, Bad and the Ugly, wonderful movie. But then The Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. I mean, that's the worst of them, of the trilogy. And it's just a very linear story. It certainly doesn't belong here, in my opinion. But of course, that's just my opinion. But the world thinks, and this is the wisdom of the crowd working, the world thinks it's a great movie, number 10 of all time. And so when we try to figure out what is a good movie and what are the characteristics that make up a good movie, we still have no clue, no matter what. And so it is totally impossible to try to figure out if a good movie will be a good movie. There are a few things that help. So if you hire some good actors, and people go after good actors, if you hire a good director, and people also go after some good directors, but there's nothing that can save a bad story or perhaps a bad direction of a movie. And so it's really difficult to forecast success of a movie. And despite previous success from some of the people involved. And so it will take you only as far. And I was giving, while you guys were on the breakout room, I was giving the example from Nicolas Cage, who has made some very good movies, but also he was in some terrible ones that really disappointed me. And so I cannot trust Nicolas Cage as an element of choice for a good movie. And so you kind of like destroy your own brand, your personal brand. So for me, Nicolas Cage as a brand is now destroyed. I cannot trust this guy to actually be a strong recommendation. But I can, and I do, use this kind of list. So whenever I try to see a new movie, I always go to the Internet Movie Database and try to figure out what everybody else thinks. And so if it's below 6.5, I probably will not see the movie. And so this is the power of social influence. But this is after actually the movie became success in this universe of ours. In different universes, remember, perhaps the early social influence would determine a different outcome, and perhaps Pulp Fiction would never be here, or perhaps The Dark Knight would never be here in a different universe. And so you do need social influence, and nowadays you can understand very well why social media influencers on Instagram or Facebook are so well paid for their work, as they actually are perhaps one of the best elements to help understand if you will have success in a product or service. And one other factor that I would like to share with you guys is subjectiveness, which is when it comes to understand if we are actually having any choice of our own, if we are entitled to choice. And according to a very complicated man, the philosopher Immanuel Kant, our judgments of beauty are not wholly subjective, nor can they be entirely objective. So clear as water, I would say, on the face of this sentence. But how far does context influences how you perceive a service? And so that's the question for you guys. And so looking at this painting, how many of you guys would say it's a great painting or just a can of soup? And so, of course, opinions change, and different people think different things. But from the moment you realize that the painting is hanging in one of the most famous museums in the world, it belongs to a very famous artist, suddenly you kind of feel tempted to consider that it might actually be something of quality. And so context might have some influence here. And so here's another example of someone who tried to understand, is beauty subjective or objective? Does it depend a lot on the context or not? And so not considering the beauty or attractiveness or handsomeness of the violinist here in the photo, let's just consider his art. And so in an experiment ran in Washington, D.C., this was videotaped, and we had this famous violinist who would usually be paid a lot of money to perform. And he was playing with a Stradivarius violin, and a total of 1,097 people passed by, and only 7 stopped to see this man. And 1 actually recognized him. And for a 45-minute performance, he collected a total of $32.17 from 27 passersby. And so $32, 3 days earlier, people would have paid $150 to see him in a concert, or $100 to see him in a concert. And so you see how context can dramatically influence the success of a product or a service. And this example is extremely powerful, and it's very difficult for artificial intelligence to include and to actually understand how far context will actually influence the outcome of a product or a service. And we can go even as far as asking, can an algorithm then create this kind of art? And so you see on the left side, we have Bach, the famous composer, and on the right side, we have David Cope, the not so famous professor of music, who actually wrote a software to compose music by different composers. So he can actually imitate different composers. And he managed to make the software emulate the compositions of Bach. And in a weird competition, he actually had listeners listen to a composition by Bach and one by his software, and even very experts in Bach could not actually detect if the new song would actually be, the new composition would actually be software made or not. So they didn't really recognize that. They totally accepted that perhaps this would be a new composition, some lost composition by Bach. And so you can see that not only artificial intelligence struggles to understand our preferences as humans, but also us humans struggle to understand how far artificial intelligence can go. And there's a few challenges on YouTube for that. There's a few links. We're running out of time to show this, but this would be actually my very last slide. Can an algorithm create art? And I would actually have here one of the compositions made by that software from David Cope, and also a small challenge with this musician playing to short compositions to illustrate. One of them would be written by a composer, the other one by software, and it's incredibly difficult to understand which one is which. But as a final slide, artificial intelligence is only as good as humans interacting with it, at least for now. And that concludes my talk for today, and I hope that you managed to get some ideas, some fresh ideas about how far are we in artificial intelligence. Can it help us forecast product and service success? So far, it's incredibly difficult, and it has to be only within certain very tight boundaries that it can be very helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pedro. Round of applause, please. Yay! So, Anupa, would you like to introduce the next week's session?
So next week, we're having Greg Warman from this company called Experience Point. He's going to be talking about scaling with design thinking, but from the team and organization perspective. So please join us. I'm just going to pop the link into the chat, and we will see you all next week. And bye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. And as usual, please follow us on our social media. You can scan the barcode for our listings. And we also on Clubhouse and Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all that stuff. Just search for Wednesday Webs Jam. And these are our lovely crew members. Some of us are here, some are not. But yes, without these lovely people, we can't make Web Jam happen. And Kofi, Mark, you have 1 minute. Go.
1 minute. We are a volunteer-run organization. We have a limited number of expenses, like paying for Zoom and paying for MailChimp and a few other things. And we have a campaign to just raise a little bit of money so we can keep going. So if you want to throw a few pennies or dollars or pounds or euros or whatever it is you pay in virtually, you can scan that barcode with your camera, or you can click on the link that's in the chat there, and we'd appreciate that. Buy us a coffee. Okay, awesome.
Yay, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. The link will be in the chat. And yes, and we will go into backstage soon. So I'll stop sharing and we can wave goodbye to YouTube.
Bye, YouTube.
Goodbye, YouTube.